I always knew my sister-in-law curated her life like a magazine spread, but I never expected her to edit my children out of it. The invitation to her party at Alder and Ash House claimed it was an adults-only evening. Then came the private message that shattered our polite silence. She did not want my daughters there because they were too pretty and distracting. That was when I stopped acting like family and started keeping records. The rain in Briar Glen always felt less like weather and more like a mood setting. A gray filter applied to the suburbs to make the green lawns look deeper and the windows look warmer. I was currently viewing it through the windshield of my minivan, which smelled faintly of apple juice and wet pavement. My phone was buzzing on the passenger seat, vibrating against a stack of permission slips I still needed to sign. I was 33 years old. I had a job in graphic design that required more diplomacy than art. A husband named Ryan, who was the love of my life despite his inability to locate the hamper. And 2 daughters who were currently arguing in the back seat about whether or not a goldfish had feelings. It was a Tuesday. It was normal. But the buzzing phone was a reminder that normal was about to be suspended. We were 3 weeks away from what Ryan's family referred to simply as the event, capital T, capital E. It was technically an engagement celebration and milestone birthday combination for my sister-in-law, Maren Holt. But to call it a party felt like an understatement. It was a coronation. Maren had rented the Alder and Ash House, a venue on the coast that usually hosted weddings for people who owned sailboats and had strong opinions about linen thread counts. I reached for the phone at a red light. It was another notification from the family group chat. Maren. Just a reminder to everyone about the color palette, creams, dusty blues, and muted golds. Please, no bright reds. We want the photos to look cohesive. I sighed, dropping the phone back onto the seat as the light turned green. This was the 4th reminder about the color palette in 2 days. I actually liked Maren, or I tried to, in the beginning. When Ryan and I first started dating, she had been welcoming, if a little intense. She was the kind of person who had a vision for everything: her career, her apartment, her brunch orders, and definitely her family. Over the years, though, that vision had started to feel less like enthusiasm and more like offense. You were either inside Maren's aesthetic, or you were a problem to be managed. Lately, the management had focused on my children, my daughters. Lily, who was 7, and Mia, who was 5, were beautiful. I knew every mother thought that. But with them, strangers stopped us in the grocery store. They had Ryan's dark, expressive eyes and a kind of wild, joyful energy that drew people in. They were loud and happy and messy. Maren found them exhausting. It had started with small comments a few months ago. We were at a barbecue at Ryan's parents' house. I had been wiping barbecue sauce off Mia's chin when Maren drifted over, holding a glass of white wine by the stem, careful not to let the condensation touch her fingers. "Your kids photograph intensely," she had said. I had laughed, thinking it was a weird compliment. I said something about them being photogenic. No, she had corrected me, her smile tight. "I mean, they take up a lot of the frame. They have such big personalities. It is hard to look at anyone else when they are in the shot." At the time, I brushed it off. I told myself she was stressed about her engagement photos. I told myself I was being sensitive, but the comments kept coming. She would suggest calmer outfits for them. She would ask if they could sit at a separate table during dinners because their chatter was distracting from the adult conversation. The car ride home from school that Tuesday was the usual chaos, but my mind was stuck on the upcoming party. I had already bought the girls matching dresses in dusty blue to appease Maren. I had spent hours talking them into the idea of wearing itchy tulle for an evening because it would make Auntie Maren happy. When we got home, I settled the girls with a snack and opened my laptop to finish a layout for a client. The house was quiet for a moment, the rain tapping against the glass. Then the phone buzzed again. This time, it was a new message in the large family thread, the one that included cousins, aunts, and even Maren's future in-laws. "Maren, hi everyone. So excited for the big night. Just a heartbreaking update. Due to strict venue policy changes at Alder and Ash, We are going to have to make the evening an adults-only event. I know this is super disappointing, but their insurance guidelines regarding the coastal cliffs are very strict. We want everyone safe. Can't wait to celebrate with you all. I stared at the screen. Disappointment washed over me, heavy and cold. I had already bought the dresses. The girls were excited, but, I reasoned, it made sense. Alder and Ash was on a cliffside. Insurance policies were nightmares. If the venue said no kids, the venue said no kids. I began typing a reply. Sarah. Oh, that is a bummer. The girls will be sad to miss it. But we understand. We will book a sitter. I hit send. I was being a good sister-in-law. I was playing by the rules. 2 minutes later, a separate notification popped up. It was a direct message from Marin. Marin, hey Sarah. Thanks for being so understanding in the group chat. I wanted to message you privately just to explain a bit more, so you didn't feel bad. I frowned. Feel bad? Why would I feel bad about an insurance policy? Marin, honestly, the venue policy is a lifesaver. I was going to have to make the call anyway. It is just that Mia and Lily pull so much focus. You know how they are? They are so pretty and energetic, and it makes other people uncomfortable. I read the message twice. The words swam on the screen. Pull focus. Makes other people uncomfortable. My stomach dropped. It wasn't an insurance policy. She was using the venue as a shield to exclude them, and the reason wasn't behavior, or noise, or cost. It was that they were too pretty. I sat there, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. My heart rate kicked up, a slow, thudding rhythm against my ribs. I looked over at my daughters in the living room. Lily was reading a book to Mia, doing silly voices. They were innocent. They were children. I took a breath. Do not explode. I told myself, do not give her the reaction she wants. If I got angry, she would paint me as the hysterical mother. I needed to be calm. I needed to be clear. I typed back slowly. Sarah. I am confused. Marin, are you saying the venue does not actually have a policy against children? The 3 dots of her typing bubble appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. She was editing. Marin. It is complicated. The venue prefers adults. But honestly, Sarah, it is about the vibe. I want an elegant evening. When your girls are there, people stare at them. It is just a lot. It creates a dynamic where the bride is not the center of the room. I knew you would understand. It is not about your parenting. It is just about appropriate attention. Appropriate attention. The phrase stuck in my throat like a fishbone. She was jealous of a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. She was worried that her guests would look at my children and smile, and that meant they would be looking at her 1% less. I set the phone down on the counter, face down. I needed Ryan. Ryan came home an hour later, shaking off a wet umbrella. He looked tired. He worked in logistics, which meant his entire day was spent fixing problems other people created. I almost felt bad for adding another one to his pile, but this could not wait. I waited until the girls were upstairs playing before I showed him the phone. He read the messages standing in the kitchen, still wearing his coat. I watched his face. I saw the wince when he read the part about them pulling focus. He handed the phone back to me and rubbed his face with both hands. Wow, he said. That is specific. It is mean, Ryan, I said, keeping my voice low. She is banning them because she thinks they are too cute. She is literally saying they distract people from her. Ryan sighed, leaning against the counter. I know, it is ridiculous, but Sarah, look at the timing. She is stressed out of her mind about this party. She has been planning it for a year. So, I asked, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks, stress makes you ban your nieces because you are insecure. She is not banning them to be mean, Ryan said, slipping into the role he had played his entire life, the translator of Holt family dysfunction. She gets obsessive about the optics. You know how she is. She wants everything to be a magazine cover. The girls are unpredictable variables. She said they make people uncomfortable, I countered, tapping the screen. That is not optics. That is an insult. She is talking about our daughters. Ryan reached out and took my hand. I know, and it is not okay. But do we really want to blow up the family 3 weeks before the wedding? If we fight her on this, she will make herself the victim. She will say we are ruining her moment. Elaine will get involved. It will become a whole thing. Elaine, my mother-in-law, the architect of the peace at all costs doctrine that governed Ryan's life. So you want me to just take it? I asked. You want me to lie to the girls and tell them they cannot go because of a rule that does not exist? Just let it go for one night, Ryan pleaded. His eyes were begging me. We will get a sitter. We will go. We will drink the champagne. We will leave early. Please, Sarah. I just cannot deal with a war right now. I looked at my husband. I loved him. I knew how hard he worked to keep the waters calm between me and his family. But this time, the silence felt heavy. It felt like betrayal. Fine, I said, pulling my hand away. We will get a sitter, he exhaled, relieved. Thank you. You are the best. I promise. I will make it up to you. He went upstairs to change. I stood in the kitchen, listening to the rain. I had agreed to the sitter, but I had not agreed to let it go. The next morning, the anger had not faded. It had crystallized. I dropped the girls off at school, kissing their soft cheeks, feeling a fierce, protective ache in my chest. They were good kids. They deserved an aunt who loved them, not one who viewed them as competition for lighting. When I got to my home office, I sat down and looked at the name of the venue again. Alder and Ash House. Marin had said, strict venue policy. She had said, insurance guidelines. I picked up the phone. A woman with a pleasant, professional voice answered on the second ring. Alder and Ash House, Events Department. This is Chloe. Hi, Chloe, I said, keeping my tone bright and breezy. My name is Sarah Kelly. I am a guest at the Holt engagement celebration coming up in a few weeks. I just had a quick question about the facilities. Of course. Mrs. Kelly, how can I help? I know the event is in the evening, and my sister-in-law mentioned there were some strict restrictions regarding children due to the cliffs. I just wanted to clarify, is the entire venue strictly adults only, or are there specific zones we need to avoid? I want to make sure I'm following the rules. There was a pause on the other end. I heard the clicking of a keyboard. One moment, Chloe said. Let me pull up the contract for that date. I waited. My heart was hammering again. Okay. Chloe came back on the line. So, looking at the Holt booking, we actually do not have a venue-wide ban on minors for that event. We frequently host families. We do ask that children under 12 be supervised near the terrace railing, but we certainly do not prohibit them. In fact, we have a small playroom off the main banquet hall available for younger guests if the hosts choose to unlock it. I closed my eyes. I knew it, but hearing it out loud was different. I see, I said. So, the adults-only rule. That is not coming from you. No, ma'am, Chloe said. That would be a host preference. Unless there is a specific add-on I am not seeing, but standard policy is family-friendly. We pride ourselves on it. Thank you, Chloe, I said. You have been very helpful. Oh, one thing, Chloe added. If you do plan to bring children, just let us know for the catering count. But legally, no ban. I hung up. I grabbed a pen and a notepad. I wrote down Chloe, Events Department, no ban, playroom available, host preference. I stared at the paper. Marin had lied to the entire family group chat. She had blamed the venue to avoid looking like the bad guy. And then, privately, she had told me the truth that my children were simply too much for her ego to handle, knowing I would never screenshot a private conversation and shame her. She was counting on my decency. She was weaponizing my manners. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't Ryan. I needed someone who would not tell me to keep the peace. I called Tessa. Tessa had been my best friend since college. She was a lawyer, which meant she listened to drama with a terrifyingly analytical ear. I put her on speaker while I paced my kitchen. I told her everything, the group text, the private message, the call to Chloe. When I finished, There was a silence on the line. "Okay," Tessa said finally. Her voice was calm, dangerous. "First of all, she is a narcissist, but we knew that. Ryan wants me to drop it," I said. "He says it is just one night." "Ryan is wrong," Tessa said, "but he is also right strategically. If you blow up at her now, you look crazy. She has already set the narrative: safety, cliffs, insurance. If you scream at her, she will show everyone your angry texts and say, 'Look how unreasonable Sarah is being about safety.' So I do nothing." "No," Tessa said. "You do not do nothing. You collect receipts." "Receipts." "Everything," Tessa commanded. "Screenshot the group text. Screenshot the private messages where she admits it is about their looks. Write down the name of the woman you spoke to at the venue. Time and date, everything. Make a folder on your laptop. Call it Marin's Nonsense if you want." "And then what?" "And then you go to the party," Tessa said. "You get the sitter. You show up looking gorgeous. You act incredibly happy for her. You do not give her a single inch of drama to feed on. Because right now, she wants you to fight her so she can uninvite you, or she wants you to stay home so she wins. Don't let her win." "And the kids?" I asked. "It breaks my heart. Tess, they wanted to wear the dresses." "Protect them," Tessa said softly. "Do not tell them their aunt didn't want them. Tell them the party is going to be very boring and full of speeches about tax law. Tell them you are getting them the best pizza in town and letting them watch a movie with the sitter. Do not let them know they were rejected. That is your job as the mom." "I know," I said, tears pricking my eyes. I hate that she gets away with it." "She is getting away with it now," Tessa corrected. "But people like Marin always overplay their hand. She lied to the whole guest list about the venue policy. Sarah, that is a ticking bomb. Eventually, someone else is going to call the venue, or someone is going to show up with a kid because they didn't read the text. Just wait. Let her trip over her own lies." I felt a shifting in my chest. The helpless anger was cooling into something harder, something useful. "Okay," I said. "I can do that." "Good," Tessa said. "And Sarah, if she says anything about the kids to your face at the party, smile and write it down later." I hung up feeling steady. I went to my computer and created a folder. Project Marin. I uploaded the screenshots. Later that afternoon, a notification popped up on my phone from Instagram. It was a direct message. I frowned. It was from Lila Keene. Lila was Marin's fiancée's sister. I didn't know her well. We had met a few times at showers and dinners. She seemed nice, down to earth, totally unlike Marin. She was a veterinarian who wore Converse with formal dresses and rolled her eyes when Marin talked about brand synergy. Lila, hey Sarah. So random. But I just saw the group text about the venue policy. Is that real? I was at Alder and Ash for a fundraiser last month and there were kids everywhere. I stared at the message. My heart skipped a beat. Here was the crack in the foundation. I hesitated. If I told Lila the truth that Marin was lying, it would get back to Marin immediately. Lila might confront her brother, Nate, Marin's fiancé. It could start the war Ryan was terrified of. But if I lied to Lila, I was covering for Marin. I was participating in the gaslighting. I decided to thread the needle. I would stick to facts, no emotion, no accusations, just the data. Sarah. Hey Lila. Good to hear from you. Honestly, I was confused too. I called the venue today just to double-check the restrictions, and the staff told me they don't actually have a ban. They said it was a host preference. I waited. The typing bubble appeared instantly. Lila host. Preference. OMG. So she is just saying it's the venue so she doesn't look like a bridezilla. I didn't reply to that. I didn't have to. Lila was smart. Lila. That is so weird. Why lie about it? Just say you want an adults-only party. People do that all the time. Sarah. I am not sure, but Marin messaged me privately and said she thought it would be better for the vibe if the girls didn't come. So we are just going to get a sitter and respect her wishes. I was playing the martyr, and I didn't even care. Lila, better for the vibe. Sarah, that is gross. Your girls are angels. I am sorry she is being like this. My brother has no clue. Does he? He loves those kids. Sarah, I don't know what Nate knows. We are just trying to keep things smooth. Lila, well, I think it sucks. Thanks for being honest. See you there. I guess. I set the phone down. I felt a small thrill of vindication. I hadn't trash-talked Marin. I had simply confirmed a fact. And now, someone on the groom's side knew the truth. That evening, I sat Ryan down after the girls were asleep. I booked the sitter, I said. Mrs. Gable, she's available. Ryan slumped on the sofa, relief washing over his face. Thank you. Sarah, really, I know this is hard. I appreciate you doing this for me. I am doing it for the girls, I said sharply. So they do not have to be in a room where they are not wanted. I sat down next to him, but I didn't lean in. I kept my posture straight. But we need to have a deal. Ryan, he looked wary. What kind of deal? I am going to this party. I will smile. I will wear the dress. I will not say a word to anyone about why the kids aren't there unless I'm directly asked. I will be the perfect guest. Okay, Ryan said. That sounds good. However, I continued, if Marin says anything to me, anything at all about the girls being distracting or too much, or if she makes one snide comment about my parenting, you have to shut it down. Ryan blinked. Shut it down how? I mean, you have to speak up, I said. In the moment, you cannot wait until the car ride home to tell me she was out of line. You cannot tell me to ignore it. You have to say, Marin, that is not okay. You have to pick me. You have to pick your daughters. Ryan looked at me. He saw the resolve in my face. He saw that this wasn't a negotiation. Okay, he said quietly. I can do that. Good, I said. And one more thing. I am keeping screenshots. Screenshots of what? Of everything, I said, standing up. Because Marin lies. Ryan, she lied to the whole family about the venue policy. She lied to me about why she didn't want the kids, and I have a feeling she is going to keep lying. So I am keeping records, not to start a fight, but to end one if I have to. Ryan looked at me with a mix of fear and respect. He nodded slowly. Fair enough, he said. I walked to the window and looked out at the rain. The streetlights reflected on the wet asphalt. The party was in 3 days. I had my dress, I had my sitter, and I had my folder of evidence. Marin wanted a picture-perfect evening. She wanted to control the frame. She had no idea that by cropping my children out of the picture, she had just handed me the camera. I went to bed, but I didn't sleep for a long time. I lay there listening to the breathing of my husband and the distant hum of the refrigerator. Thinking about the phrase too pretty, it was such a strange, jagged thing to say to a mother. It was the kind of thing you said when you were hollow inside. I closed my eyes and visualized the party, the champagne, the toasts, the carefully curated playlist. I would be there, and I would be watching. The game had started, whether Ryan wanted it to or not. And for the first time in years, I wasn't playing defense. The cancellation call came at 4 p.m. on Friday. Less than 24 hours before the event, I was in the kitchen, slicing apples for the girls, when Mrs. Gable's number flashed on my screen. Mrs. Gable was our rock. She was 60 years old, smelled like lavender laundry detergent, and had never canceled on us in 4 years. Sarah, honey, her voice was thick with congestion. I am so sorry. I think I have come down with that flu going around. I can barely lift my head off the pillow. A year ago, this would have sent me into a tailspin. I would have frantically texted neighbors, begged my parents who lived 3 hours away, or guilt-tripped Ryan into staying home. I would have let Marin's chaos become my chaos. But the Sarah of today was different. The Sarah of today had a folder on her laptop named Project Marin and a spine made of reinforced steel. Do not worry for a second. Mrs. Gable, I said, my voice steady. You stay in bed and feel better. We will send over some soup next week. I hung up and didn't even sigh. I didn't tell Ryan. I didn't text the family group chat to complain about my bad luck, which would have only given Marin ammunition to say, "See, kids make everything so complicated." Instead, I opened my laptop and went to the website of a high-end nanny agency a neighbor had recommended months ago. It was expensive, painfully so, but they vetted their staff with the rigor of the Secret Service. Within 20 minutes, I had booked a woman named Elena, who had a degree in early childhood education and 5-star reviews. I paid the deposit. I confirmed the time. Problem solved. No drama. No fuel for the fire. I was just closing my laptop when a new notification pinged. It was a voice note from Marin. I stared at the little audio file. Marin loved voice notes. They allowed her to say things she would never type out, things that could be played off as tone or jokes if anyone ever called her on them. Text messages were evidence. Voice notes were performances. I pressed play. "Hey, Sarah." Marin's voice filled the kitchen, breathless and sugary. "I am just doing final checks for tomorrow, and I am so excited I just wanted to send a final little reminder about the vibe. I know you got a sitter, which is amazing. Thank you so much for understanding. I just really want the evening to be elegant. You know, like super adult and chic. Honestly, having the girls there it would invite comments. You know how people are. I just want to protect them from that energy. Love you." The audio ended. I sat there, the silence of the kitchen pressing in on me. Invite comments. She was framing it as protection. She was banning my children to protect them from the judgment she was actively cultivating. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. She was the one holding the match, telling me to be careful of the fire. I didn't delete the file. I saved it. I renamed it Marin_voicenote_invitecomments.mp3. Then I dragged it into the folder. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was Elaine, my mother-in-law. "Hi, Sarah," Elaine said. Her voice had that specific pitch she used when she was trying to smooth over a jagged edge, a mix of nursery rhyme cadence and warning. "I was just chatting with Marin. She sounded so stressed. Poor thing." "She has a lot going on," I said neutrally. "She does," Elaine agreed, latching onto the opening. "She mentioned she sent you a note about the kids. I hope you didn't take it the wrong way." "Dear." "What would be the wrong way?" "Elaine," I asked. There was a pause. Elaine wasn't used to direct questions. She preferred implications. "Well, you know," she stammered slightly, "Marin just wants everything perfect. And I know you can be a little sensitive about the girls since becoming a mom. It is natural we all get like that, mama bear and all. But Marin loves those nieces of hers. She just wants the focus to be on the couple tomorrow." I felt a cold prickle of recognition. This was the system, the Holt family machine in action. Step 1, Marin provokes with a targeted insult masked as a preference. Step 2, the victim reacts or gets hurt. Step 3, Elaine swoops in to reframe the victim's reaction as sensitivity, or hormones, or stress, effectively absolving Marin of any wrongdoing. Step 4, Ryan absorbs the tension to keep everyone happy. "I am not sensitive." "Elaine," I said, keeping my voice dangerously level. "Marin told me my children make people uncomfortable because of how they look. That is not a sensitivity issue. That is a rudeness issue." "Oh, Sarah," Elaine sighed, the sound of a woman exhausted by other people's refusal to be doormats. "She didn't mean it like that. You are reading too much into it. Just do this for the family. Okay, without making it a thing, Ryan needs a peaceful weekend." There it was, the trump card. Ryan needs peace. "We have a sitter. Elaine," I said. "We will be there. There is no thing." "Good," she said, relieved. "That is good. You are a good wife." "Sarah." I hung up. The compliment tasted like ash. I wasn't a good wife because I was compliant. I was a good wife because I was currently preventing her son from seeing the rot in his own family tree. But that protection had an expiration date. Ryan came home late, looking ragged. He kissed me on the cheek, loosened his tie, and went straight for the refrigerator. "Mom called me," he said, popping open a sparkling water. "She said you guys had a nice chat." I turned from the sink, drying my hands on a towel. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He was a good man. He was kind, hardworking, and he loved our daughters. But he had been trained from birth to think that Marin's feelings were the weather inevitable, powerful, and something you simply adjusted your clothing for. "Ryan," I said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the absolute truth." He froze, the can halfway to his mouth. He heard the shift in my tone. "Okay," he said slowly. "Did Marin say something to you about the kids, specifically? Did she tell you why she didn't want them there?" Ryan looked down at the floor, then at the can in his hand. He shifted his weight. "She mentioned it," he muttered. "What did she say?" "She just said people talk," Ryan said, his voice quiet. "She said at the last barbecue, some of her friends were making comments about how the girls take up a lot of space, like energy-wise, and she didn't want that distraction at the engagement party." "And what did you say?" I asked. The silence stretched. It was thin and brittle. "I didn't say anything, Sarah," he admitted, looking miserable. "I was on my way to a meeting. I just wanted to get off the phone. I figured it was just Marin being Marin." He didn't challenge it. His sister had told him that his daughters were distractions because they existed too loudly, and he had just nodded and hung up. I didn't yell. I wanted to. I wanted to throw the dish towel at him. I wanted to scream that his silence was an endorsement. But screaming was what Marin would do. Screaming was emotional. Screaming was sensitive. Instead, I went quiet. I folded the towel precisely and laid it on the counter. "Okay," I said. Ryan looked up, alarmed. "Sarah, are you mad?" "I am disappointed," I said softly. "I am the one protecting them from her." "Ryan, but I shouldn't be the only one." I walked out of the kitchen and went upstairs. I heard him sigh behind me, but he didn't follow. My silence scared him more than any argument could have. In an argument, he could negotiate. In my silence, he was alone with his own failure. Saturday morning was gray and blustery, the day of the event. But first, the pre-event brunch. This was another one of Marin's requirements. A select group of family and bridal party members were summoned to Elaine's house for quiche and mimosas to kick off the celebration. It was mandatory fun. I dressed carefully. I wore a structured blazer and dark jeans, armor, when we arrived. Elaine's house was already buzzing. The air smelled of expensive coffee and perfume. Marin was in the center of the living room, wearing a white silk jumpsuit that probably cost more than my first car. She looked stunning. She also looked predatory. "Sarah," she shrieked when she saw me, rushing over to pull me into a hug that didn't touch. She smelled of champagne and anxiety. "You made it, and look at you. You look so rested." "Hi, Marin," I said, extracting myself. "Happy celebration day." "It is going to be magical," she beamed. Then she looked behind me, at Ryan, and my big brother. "You look tired. Sarah, are you letting him sleep?" It was a joke. But it wasn't. It was a dig. Sarah is the problem. She grabbed Ryan's arm and pulled him toward the mimosa bar. I drifted toward the kitchen, observing. The room was filled with Marin's friends, her squad. They were a terrifying phalanx of women who all had the same haircut and the same way of holding their phones like weapons. I watched them. They weren't talking to each other. They were posing. One girl would hold up a glass, tilt her head, and 3 others would snap photos. Then they would huddle, review, filter, and post. "So candid," one of them squealed. "Caption it. Family first," another suggested. It felt less like a family gathering and more like a brand activation. Marin wasn't getting married. She was launching a product line called The Holtz, and my children didn't fit the packaging. Marin circled back to me near the fruit platter. She picked up a strawberry and looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "So, "The girls are good?" she asked loudly. "I miss them so much. They are such little stars." Heads turned. She had pitched her voice perfectly so that half the room heard her lamenting the absence of her nieces. "They are fine," I said. "They are looking forward to movie night." "Oh," Marin cooed. "I bet, honestly, Sarah, they are so gorgeous it is unfair. If they were here, nobody would look at me. I would just be the ugly aunt in the corner." She laughed. Her friends laughed. It was a self-deprecating joke that was actually a command. Validate me. Tell me I am the most beautiful. "You are plenty visible, Marin," I said. She blinked, unsure if that was a compliment. Before she could decide, she spun away to greet a cousin. I felt a hand on my elbow. I turned to see Lila Keene, Marin's future sister-in-law. Lila looked out of place in a flannel shirt and nice trousers, holding a mug of black coffee. "Hey," she said, her voice low. "Can I talk to you for a sec? Maybe on the patio." We stepped outside. The air was cool and damp. Lila checked to make sure the glass door was closed. "So," Lila started, looking uncomfortable. "I felt like I should tell you this, because I would want someone to tell me. Tell me what—" "Marin has been spinning a story," Lila said. "I was in the kitchen with her and her maid of honor earlier. They were talking about why your kids aren't coming tonight." My stomach tightened. "And what is the official reason?" "She is telling people that she offered to pay for professional childcare at the venue," Lila said, watching my face. "She said she set up a whole kids' room with a sitter, but you refused it. She said you threatened to bring them into the banquet hall anyway because you, quote, can't stand to be separated from them. She is painting you as, well, kind of unstable, like you have separation anxiety." I stared at Lila. The audacity was breathtaking. "She said I refused childcare," I repeated. "Yeah, she said she tried everything to accommodate you, but you were being difficult, so she had to put her foot down for the sake of the other guests." I laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "Lila," I said. "She told me the venue had a strict no-kids policy due to insurance. She told me it was illegal to have them there." Lila's eyes widened. "She lied about the insurance, and now she is lying about the childcare. She is building a story," I realized aloud. "She knew people would ask why the nieces weren't there, so she invented a version where she is the generous aunt and I am the crazy mother." "That is psychotic," Lila whispered. "It is Marin," I corrected. I looked back through the glass door. Marin was laughing, throwing her head back for a photo. She looked radiant. She looked like a victim who had triumphed over her difficult sister-in-law. "Thanks for telling me, Lila," I said. "Really? What are you going to do?" Lila asked. "I am going to make a phone call," I said. I excused myself and went to my car. I sat in the driver's seat and dialed Alder and Ash House again. "Events. This is Chloe." "Hi, Chloe. It is Sarah Kelly again, the guest for the Holt party." "Oh, hello, Mrs. Kelly. Did you need to add the children to the count?" "No," I said. "I actually had a question about the playroom you mentioned, the one available for younger guests." "Yes. My sister-in-law mentioned to some guests that she offered that room to us, but that we declined it. I just wanted to check the record. Did Marin ever book the children's room?" I heard the typing. "Let me see. No, we actually offered it to her during the initial booking 3 months ago, and again last week when we finalized the head count." "And what did she say?" I asked. "Did she mention cost?" "No, it wasn't cost," Chloe said. "She actually put a note in the file. She declined the playroom because, let me read this exactly. I do not want the visual of strollers and diaper bags in the lobby. It ruins the aesthetics of the entrance." I closed my eyes. "It ruins the aesthetics." "Thank you, Chloe," I said. "Could you possibly email me that confirmation? Just that the room was offered and declined. I am dealing with a bit of a family miscommunication, and having the dates would be helpful." "I can send you the invoice summary," Chloe said. "It shows the declined services. That is standard." Perfect. 2 minutes later, The email landed in my inbox. I opened my Notes app. I created a new entry, the timeline. September 12th. Marin tells group chat. Adults only. Venue policy. September 12th. Marin tells Sarah via DM. Kids pull focus/invite comments. September 14th. Sarah confirms with venue, no ban exists. September 20th. Marin tells Lila/guests. Sarah refused the childcare option and threatened to bring kids. September 20th. Venue confirms Marin rejected childcare service because strollers ruin the aesthetics. I looked at the list. It was a map of her deceit. She wasn't just vain. She was vicious. She was willing to destroy my reputation as a mother just to cover up the fact that she viewed my children as props that didn't fit her set design. I wasn't plotting revenge. I told myself I was building a shield. Because if I went into that party tonight without this shield, she would eat me alive. She would make snide comments. She would have her friends roll their eyes at me. And if I reacted, she would point and say, "See unstable." But now I had the truth in my pocket. I walked back into the house. The brunch was winding down. Ryan was standing by the door, looking ready to bolt. I walked up to him. I slipped my hand into his. "Ready to go?" he asked, looking at me anxiously. "Yep," I said. "Let's go home and get ready." "You okay?" he asked. "You look intense." "I am fine," I said. "I am just focused." As we were leaving, I passed the patio door. Ryan's cousin, a woman named Jessica, who had known Marin since kindergarten, was smoking a cigarette with another guest. The door was cracked open just an inch. "Honestly, it is sad," Jessica was whispering. "Marin is terrified of being outshined, even by a 5-year-old. It is pathological." "I know," the other woman replied. "But don't say that to her. She will cut you out of the photos." They laughed. I kept walking. So they knew. At least some of them knew. It wasn't about the noise, or the mess, or the insurance. It was fear. Marin was a 30-year-old woman terrified that a child with big eyes and a genuine smile would expose how manufactured her own joy was. I felt a strange, cold calm settle over me. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to make a scene. I just needed to show up. I needed to be the mirror she was trying to avoid. "Sarah," Ryan asked as we got into the car, "are you sure you are okay?" "You haven't said a word about Marin." I buckled my seatbelt. I checked my phone to make sure the email from Chloe had downloaded. "I am great, Ryan," I said. "I am just really looking forward to tonight. And for the first time in weeks, I meant it. I wasn't going to a party anymore. I was going to a deposition, and I was the only one who had prepared the evidence." The email arrived on Saturday morning, sitting innocuously in my inbox between a sale alert from a furniture store and a newsletter about digital marketing trends. The subject line read, "Final guest list and notes. Holt celebration." I was not supposed to be on this distribution list. It was clearly meant for the internal events team at Alder and Ash House, but someone, likely an overworked assistant, had CC'd the guest contact list by mistake. I opened it, sipping my coffee, curious to see the machinery behind Marin's perfect evening. It was a spreadsheet attached to a PDF. I scanned down the rows of names: Holt, Keene, Ward, Peterson. Then I found us, Ryan and Sarah Kelly, next to our names, in the column marked Special Notes/Dietary. There was no mention of Ryan's shellfish allergy. Instead, there was a directive typed in bold. Red font. "Please remind guest Sarah Kelly of the no minors policy. Host emphasizes this guest has been resistant to guidelines. Do not admit children." I set my coffee cup down. The ceramic made a sharp click against the granite counter. Resistant to guidelines. Marin had not just uninvited my children. She had flagged me as a security risk. She had told the venue staff that I was a problem, a woman who might try to sneak a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old past the velvet rope like contraband. She was preloading the staff's perception of me before I even walked through the door. I felt the heat rise up my neck, but I forced myself to breathe. This was the trap. If I called Marin screaming, she would tell everyone I was hysterical. She would say, "See, this is why I had to leave a note." I needed to be a professional. I needed to be the person she claimed I wasn't reasonable. I hit reply. I removed the general distribution list and kept only Chloe, the coordinator I had spoken to previously. "Dear Chloe, I hope you're having a smooth weekend preparing for the event. I received this distribution email in error, but I noticed a note next to my name regarding a no minors policy and my supposed resistance to it. As per our phone conversation on Tuesday, you confirmed that Alder and Ash House has no blanket ban on children and that this restriction is entirely a host preference. I have already arranged for a nanny and have no intention of bringing my daughters, as I previously communicated to the host. However, I am concerned that the internal notes reflect a policy that does not exist and characterize me as difficult. I'm attaching a screenshot of our call log for your reference. Please ensure the check-in staff is aware that I am fully compliant and that no special reminders will be necessary upon my arrival. I would prefer a quiet entry. Best, Sarah Kelly." I attached the screenshot of the call log from Tuesday. I hit send. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It wasn't Chloe. It was Marin. I let it ring 3 times. I wanted her to sit in the silence for a moment. I wanted her to wonder if I was going to pick up, or if I was going to forward that email to her fiancé. "Hello," I answered, my voice calm. "Sarah." Marin sounded breathless, her voice pitched high and tight. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. The venue just called me. Apparently, they sent out an internal email by mistake. I am so embarrassed. They are so incompetent sometimes." She was spinning. She was trying to throw the venue under the bus to cover the note she had dictated. "It is fine, Marin," I said. "I just wanted to clear up the confusion. The note said I was resistant to a venue policy. Since there is no venue policy, I figured it was just a typo." There was a silence on the other end. A heavy, static-filled silence. "Well," Marin started, her voice dropping an octave, losing the chirpy facade. "You know how it is. I had to be firm. You were asking so many questions about the rules, and I just couldn't risk it. Sarah, I couldn't risk you showing up with them." "Why?" I asked. "Why are you so terrified of my children?" "Marin." "I am not terrified," she snapped. Then, immediately, she dissolved into tears. It was a jarring switch, like a radio channel changing. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Everyone is watching me. Nate's family, my family, the investors for the new business. Everything has to be perfect. I can't have distractions." "My children are not distractions," I said. "They are your nieces." "They are beautiful," Marin cried out, and the truth finally spilled over the dam of her control. "Okay, is that what you want to hear? They are beautiful, and they are loud, and everyone looks at them last Christmas. Nobody even looked at my engagement ring because Mia was doing a dance in the living room. I just want one night. Sarah, one night where I am the only thing people look at. I don't want comparisons. I don't want people saying, 'Oh, look how cute the girls are,' while I'm standing there in a $5,000 dress." I stood in my kitchen, holding the phone, feeling a strange mix of pity and disgust. She had finally admitted it. It wasn't insurance. It wasn't the cliffs. It wasn't the vibe. It was vanity. Pure, unfiltered vanity. She was waiting for me to comfort her. That was the script. She cried, and I was supposed to say, "Oh, honey, don't be silly. You are the star. Nobody compares to you." I didn't say it. "I understand you are stressed," I said, my voice cool. "But you didn't have to lie about the venue, Marin, and you didn't have to flag me as a security risk to the staff. That was a choice." I didn't mean it like that," she stammered, realized she wasn't getting the reassurance she felt entitled to. "We will see you tomorrow," I said. "We will leave the girls at home. You will have your night." I hung up. I felt a tremor in my hands, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of holding a boundary. For 10 years, I had managed Marin's feelings like they were fragile antiques. Today, I had let them fall. An hour later, the second wave of the attack arrived. This time, it was Elaine. "Sarah, dear," Elaine's text read, "I am heading over to the venue early tomorrow around 3 o'clock to help Marin with the favor bags and final setup. I would love for you to come. It would be a nice way for us girls to bond before the madness starts. Plus, Marin is feeling a little fragile and could use your supportive energy." I stared at the screen. Supportive energy, Elaine knew. Marin must have called her immediately after hanging up with me, weeping about how cold I was. Elaine was now trying to broker a peace treaty by forcing me into servitude. If I showed up early and stuffed favor bags, it would prove I was still a good sister-in-law. It would signal that I accepted the treatment. I typed my reply. "Hi, Elaine. That sounds like a lovely setup, but we have plans with the girls tomorrow afternoon before the sitter arrives. We want to spend some quality time with them since we will be out all evening. We will see you at the cocktail hour." I didn't apologize. I didn't offer an excuse. I simply declined. Elaine's reply came 3 dots later. "Oh, that is a shame. Family usually pitches in. But I suppose you have your hands full." The guilt trip was subtle, but I stepped over it like a puddle. "Mommy?" I turned. Lily was standing in the doorway, holding her coloring book. She was wearing her favorite leggings with the galaxy print. "Yes, baby." "Are we going to the fancy party?" she asked. I knelt down. This was the hardest part, the lying, or rather, the editing of the truth. "No, sweetie," I said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "The fancy party is for grown-ups. It is going to be very boring, just lots of talking and standing around." "Oh," she said, looking relieved. "So we don't have to wear the itchy dresses." "No itchy dresses," I promised. "Actually, I was thinking, since Daddy and I are going out tomorrow night, maybe you, me, and Mia could have a special day tomorrow morning, just us." Her eyes lit up. "Can we go to the fish place?" "The aquarium." I smiled. "I think that is a brilliant idea." The next morning, the day of the event, felt split in two. There was the storm brewing at Alder and Ash House, and then there was the calm bubble I created around my daughters. We went to the small aquarium in the city. It wasn't the big, famous one with the sharks and the crowds. It was a smaller, quieter place near the waterfront that smelled of salt and rain. We watched the jellyfish pulse in their backlit tanks, glowing like living neon. Mia pressed her face against the glass, her breath fogging it up. "Look, Mommy," she whispered, "they are dancing." I took a picture of them, not for Instagram, not for Marin, just for me, in the dim blue light of the aquarium. I felt a fierce clarity. Marin thought my children were accessories that didn't match her outfit. She thought their value lay in how they photographed. But watching Mia giggle at a crab and Lily read the plaque about sea turtles with intense focus, I realized how small Marin's world actually was. My children were not too pretty. They were real. They were people. And keeping them away from that venue wasn't a punishment. It was a rescue. They didn't need to be in a room where their existence was measured by how much attention they stole. We went to a bookstore cafe afterwards. We bought hot chocolates with mountains of whipped cream. We bought new books. We laughed. For 4 hours. I didn't think about the venue. I didn't think about the no minors note. I just loved them. While we were at the bookstore, Ryan was dealing with his own awakening. He had gone to his parents' house to pick up a suit bag he had left there. Nate, Marin's fiancé, was in the garage, hiding from the chaos inside. Ryan told me about the conversation later, his voice quiet and shaken. He had found Nate sitting on a cooler, staring at a set of golf clubs. Nate was a good guy, a little passive, a little too eager to please, but decent. "Hey," Ryan had said. "Big day." "Yeah," Nate exhaled. "Huge. Is Sarah okay?" Marin said she was upset yesterday. Sarah is fine, Ryan said, leaning against the workbench. She is taking the girls to the aquarium. Nate nodded. That's nice. Look, Rye, about the kid thing. I feel bad. I know you guys wanted to bring them. Ryan decided to test the waters. He remembered my question, does Nate know? It is what it is. Ryan said. The venue policy is strict. We don't want to get you guys fined or anything. Nate looked up. Confused. He frowned, scrubbing a hand through his hair. Venue policy? Nate asked. I didn't think it was a policy. I thought Marin just wanted, I don't know. She said it was a logistics thing. Something about the seating chart being too tight. Ryan felt a cold weight in his stomach. Marin had told me it was insurance. She had told Nate it was seating charts. She had told the venue I was resistant. So the venue didn't ban them, Ryan pressed. I don't think so, Nate admitted. I mean, Marin handled all the logistics with the coordinator. She told me she made the call because there wasn't enough room at the tables. Why did she tell you something else? She told us it was an insurance liability, Ryan said flatly. Nate went silent. He looked down at his shoes. She is just stressed, Nate said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. She spins things sometimes, to make it easier, you know. Yeah, Ryan said. I know. Ryan left the garage feeling sick. It wasn't just a lie. It was a triangulation. Marin kept everyone in separate silos, feeding them different versions of reality so they would never compare notes. She relied on the fact that Nate wouldn't call me, and I wouldn't call Nate. She relied on silence, but the silence was breaking when I got home from the aquarium. I put the girls down for quiet time and checked my phone. There was a message from Lila Keene. Lila, brace yourself. Sending you something I think you need to see. This is from the Bridesmaids family group chat. I know you aren't in it. She attached a screenshot. It was a text from Marin to her bridesmaids. Sent late last night. Marin, crisis averted with Sarah. She was threatening to bring the kids again. I had to be super firm. Honestly, it is so exhausting. I feel like she uses those kids for attention. You know, like she can't stand it if she isn't the mommy of the year in every room. She is totally trying to compete with the engagement vibes, but I shut it down. Adults only. We are going to have so much fun. I read the text. Then I read it again. She uses those kids for attention. She is totally trying to compete. It was projection so pure it was almost clinical. Marin, who was curating a milestone event with the precision of a military campaign, was accusing me of being an attention seeker because I had politely asked if my children could attend a family party. I felt a wave of nausea. Hot and sour. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a smear campaign. She was poisoning the well. She was telling her friends, her future in-laws, and anyone who would listen that I was a narcissist who used her children as props. But strangely, under the nausea, I felt a grim satisfaction. Validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't sensitive. I was being targeted. I texted Lila back. Sarah, thank you. I mean it. I needed to see this. Lila. It is disgusting. Sarah, I almost said something, but I figured you should have the ammo first. Just so you know. Nobody responded to her. It was crickets. I think people are starting to see the cracks. I went to my laptop. I opened Project Marin. I added the screenshot. The timeline. September 25th, Marin texts. Bridesmaids group. Sarah uses kids for attention / threaten to bring them / trying to compete. September 25th note. I was actually confirming the nanny booking at this time. I closed the laptop. I went to the closet and pulled out the dress I was going to wear. It was a deep emerald green. Simple and sharp. It wasn't dusty blue. It didn't fit her palette. I wasn't going to make a scene tonight. I wasn't going to throw a drink in her face. That was what she wanted. She wanted a villain. My strategy was different. I was going to be the most sane, rational, pleasant person in the room. I was going to let her lies hang in the air until they suffocated her. I walked downstairs to find Ryan sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the wall. I talked to Nate, he said without looking up. And she lied to him too. She told him it was seating charts. I sat down opposite him. And she told the bridesmaids I was using the kids to compete with her engagement. Ryan looked at me, his eyes wide with shock. I showed him the screenshot. He read it. His face hardened. The peacemaker. The smoother over. The man who had spent 35 years making excuses for his sister. Finally ran out of runway. "She is talking about my wife," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "She is," I said. "And she is talking about the mother of your children." "I am going to say something to her," Ryan said. Standing up. "Tonight?" "No," I said. "Not to her. If you confront her, she will cry and ruin the party and blame us. Talk to Nate. If Nate asks, tell him the truth. If anyone asks, tell them the truth. But do not engage Maren. Let her dig her own hole." Ryan took a deep breath. "Okay. But if she comes at you, if she comes at me," I said. "I have this folder." I checked my phone one last time before heading up to shower. There was a text from a number I didn't save, but I recognized the area code. "Hey, Sarah. It is Leo, the photographer. From the United Way shoot last year." I smiled. "Leo, he was a great photographer, candid and kind. Maren must have hired him." "Leo, weird question, but I'm looking at my shoot list for tonight and there is a giant note from the client saying, 'Do not photograph Sarah Kelly's table if she brings children.' And then another note saying, 'Keep camera away from Sarah K. Did you punch someone? I thought you were the chill one.'" I laughed out loud. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Keep camera away from Sarah K." She was trying to edit me out of the event entirely. She was terrified that if I was in the photos, people would remember the children weren't there. Or maybe she just hated my face. I texted Leo back. "Sarah. Hey, Leo. Long story. No punching involved. Just some family drama. The kids aren't coming. So you are safe. But feel free to take photos of me. I promise I won't break your lens. Leo lol. Copy that. This client is intense. See you tonight." I put the phone down. The venue coordinator knew. Lila knew. Nate suspected. The photographer knew. Ryan knew. Maren thought she was controlling the narrative, but she was leaking credibility like a sieve. She was frantic, slapping "do not enter" signs on every door, not realizing that the walls were made of glass. I went upstairs and turned on the shower. I let the hot water run over my face. I wasn't afraid of the party anymore. The party was a stage, and Maren had over-directed it. All I had to do was walk on, hit my mark, and wait for the scenery to fall down. I dressed in the green gown. I put on gold earrings. I looked at myself in the mirror. "You are not the problem," I whispered to my reflection. I went downstairs. Ryan was waiting in his tuxedo. He looked handsome, but his jaw was set tight. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," I said. We walked out to the car. The rain had stopped. The sky was clearing. It was going to be a beautiful night for a reckoning. The drive to Alder and Ash House took 40 minutes along the coast. The road wound through tunnels of Douglas firs that occasionally broke open to reveal the gray, churning Pacific. Ryan drove with both hands on the wheel, his knuckles pale. The silence in the car wasn't empty. It was focused. "You look beautiful," he said, glancing at my emerald dress. "Thanks," I said. "You look like you are going to a board meeting where you plan to fire everyone." He let out a short, tense breath. "I just want to get through this without my mother crying." "Elaine crying is a feature, not a bug," I reminded him. "Just remember the deal. If Maren starts, you finish it." "I know," he said. "I'm ready." The venue was stunning. It was a modern structure of glass and dark wood perched on a cliff edge, looking like it had grown out of the stone. Valets in white jackets opened our doors. The air smelled of salt spray and expensive perfume. I left my phone in my clutch. I had my receipts, but I didn't want to be the person checking her screen every 5 minutes. Tonight was about being present. It was about letting the reality of Maren's choices play out in real time. We walked up the stone steps to the entrance. A young woman with a clipboard stood at a sleek podium. She looked frazzled. Names, she asked, her finger hovering over the list. Ryan and Sarah Kelly, Ryan said. Her finger stopped. She looked up, her eyes widening slightly as she took in my face. I saw the recognition. I was the red flag. I was the resistant guest. "Oh," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Mrs. Kelly, welcome. I have a note here to remind you about the strictly no minors policy for the evening, just to be safe." She looked pained having to say it. It was rude, and she knew it was rude. But she had her orders. I didn't blink. I smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached my eyes. "Yes, I am aware," I said pleasantly. "I actually verified the policy with your coordinator. Chloe, earlier this week. We have a sitter tonight. No children in sight." The tension drained out of the girl's shoulders so fast she almost slumped. "Oh, thank goodness," she exhaled. "I am so sorry. The note was just very specific. Enjoy your evening." We walked past her into the main hall. "Jesus," Ryan muttered under his breath. "She really put a bouncer on you." "She put a bouncer on a 5-year-old, I corrected. "Let's get a drink." The room was already full. A string quartet was playing something by Taylor Swift, but making it sound like Mozart. Waiters circulated with trays of oysters and champagne. The decor was exactly as promised: creams, dusty blues, muted golds. It was beautiful, sterile, and completely devoid of warmth. Then, Marin materialized. She was wearing a white dress that was technically not a wedding dress, but only technically. It had a train. She swept toward us, arms outstretched, a vision of bridal benevolence. "You guys," she squealed, grabbing my shoulders. "You look amazing, Sarah. That green is bold. I love that you went off palette. It is so you." "Hi, Marin," I said, letting her kiss the air near my cheek. "Everything looks lovely." She leaned in close for the hug, her perfume overpowering the scent of the oysters. Her grip tightened on my arms. "Thanks for not making me look bad," she whispered into my ear. It was sharp, hissed like steam. I pulled back and looked at her. Her eyes were hard, scanning my face for a reaction. She wasn't thanking me for coming. She was thanking me for capitulating. She was acknowledging that she had forced my hand and was gloating that I hadn't made a scene at the door. "We are just happy to be here," I said, refusing to whisper back. She held my gaze for a second too long, then flashed a bright, fake smile at a passing photographer. "Mingle," she commanded. "Eat, have fun." She swirled away. Ryan looked at me. "What did she say?" "She thanked me for not making her look bad," I said, "which means she knows exactly how bad she looks." We moved into the room. I felt eyes on me. Marin's narrative had clearly spread the unstable sister-in-law who couldn't be separated from her kids, but I held my head high. I introduced myself to strangers. I laughed at jokes. I was charming. About 20 minutes in, I found myself standing near the bar next to an older woman with silver hair cut in a sharp bob. She was watching the room with an expression of mild amusement. "The oysters are excellent," she said to me. "But the speeches are going to be long. I can feel it." I laughed. "I think you are right. I am Sarah, by the way, Ryan's wife." "Dr. Patrice Ward," she said, shaking my hand firmly. "I work with Marin. I am her mentor at the firm." "Oh, wow," I said. "She talks about you all the time. You are the one who got her into the leadership program." "I am." "Doctor," Ward said. She took a sip of her wine, then looked around the room. "So, I have to ask, where are your children tonight?" Marin has shown me photos of them in the office. They are absolutely striking. I paused. This was the moment. I could lie. I could say, "Oh, we just wanted a night off." That would protect Marin. That would keep the peace. But I wasn't protecting Marin anymore. "They are home with a sitter," I said, keeping my tone light and conversational. "Marin told us the venue had banned children due to insurance issues, but it turns out it was actually a bit more complicated than that." "Doctor." Ward frowned. She was a smart woman. She heard the nuance. Complicated how? She asked. Well, I said, taking a sip of my sparkling water. I called the venue to check the rules, and they said there was no ban. It seems Marin just really preferred an adults-only environment, which is totally her right. It just would have been easier if she had been direct about it instead of blaming the cliffs. Doctor. Ward stared at me. Her expression shifted from amusement to calculation. She told you the venue banned them, she repeated. Yes, and then she told me privately that she was worried they would pull focus. I offered a small, self-deprecating shrug. Apparently, they are a bit too cute for their own good. Doctor. Ward didn't laugh. She looked across the room at Marin, who was currently directing a waiter to move a floral arrangement 2 inches to the left. That is interesting, Doctor, Ward said slowly, because she told me last week that you refused to bring them because you didn't trust the catering staff with their allergies. I blinked. My children don't have food allergies. Ryan does. I see, Doctor, Ward said. The temperature in her voice dropped 10 degrees. I don't like inconsistency. Sarah, especially in logistics. She turned back to me, her eyes kind but sharp. Enjoy your evening. I have some thinking to do. She walked away. I watched her go. I hadn't trash-talked Marin. I hadn't called her names. I had just corrected the data. I turned and saw Ryan talking to a group of cousins. I joined them. Wait, one of the cousins, a guy named Mike, was saying, so the venue didn't say no teens. Because we left Tyler at home and he was pissed. He wanted to see the car collection they have in the lobby. I didn't see any sign about no teens, Ryan said, looking uncomfortable but sticking to the plan. Sarah called. They said families are welcome. What the hell? Mike's wife whispered. Marin sent us a text in all caps saying strictly 21 plus. Maybe she just wanted to save money on plates, someone suggested. Then say that, Mike grumbled. Don't lie about the venue. Tyler is 16. He isn't going to jump off a cliff. The ripples were spreading. I excused myself to go to the restroom. On the way, Lila Keene intercepted me. She was with a man with a camera, Leo, the photographer I had texted. Sarah, Leo grinned. The fugitive arrives. No kids in the trench coat. Clean, I said, opening my hands. Good to see you, Leo. This is wild, Leo said, lowering his camera. I have shot 3 weddings here this year. There are always kids running around. The coordinator was rolling her eyes when I asked about the strict policy. She said your sister-in-law was the only one enforcing it. He said it loudly. He was a photographer. He was used to shouting over music. Marin was standing 10 feet away, talking to her maid of honor. She froze. Her back stiffened. She heard him. She turned around slowly. Her eyes darted from Leo to me to Lila. Leo, she called out, her voice shrill. We need you over here for the cake-cutting lighting check. Leo winked at me. Duty calls. He walked over to her. I watched Marin whisper something furious to him. He just shrugged and pointed at his camera. She couldn't yell at him. He was holding the device that controlled her image. She was trapped. I walked toward the restroom, but I was intercepted again, this time by Nate. The groom looked clammy. He was holding a beer like it was a life raft. Sarah, he said. Hey. Hi, Nate. Congratulations. Thanks, he said. He looked around to make sure Marin wasn't watching. Hey, people keep asking me where Mia and Lily are. My aunt just asked why they weren't flower girls. I told her about the venue rules, and she looked at me like I was crazy. She said she was here for a bat mitzvah last week. He looked at me, begging for an explanation that didn't implicate his fiancée. Nate, I said gently, there were no venue rules. He went pale. What? Marin didn't want them here, I said. She told me they were distracting. She told the venue I was difficult. She told your family it was policy. It was just her. Nate, all of it. He stared at me. He looked like he had been punched in the gut. Why would she do that? He whispered. I love those kids. You have to ask her that, I said. He nodded, dazed. He turned and walked not toward the bar, but toward the bridal suite where Marin had just disappeared to fix her makeup. I went into the restroom. I washed my hands. I looked in the mirror. I looked calm. I looked like a woman who had nothing to hide. When I came out, the atmosphere in the room had shifted. It wasn't a party anymore. It was a room full of people who were slowly realizing they had been managed. Small groups were whispering. Glances were being exchanged. Marin was back in the room, but she was fraying. I saw her snap at a waiter for holding a tray too high. I saw her pull Elaine into a corner and gesture wildly at me. Elaine looked tired. She patted Marin's arm and walked over to me. "Sarah," Elaine said, her smile tight. "Marin is feeling a little attacked. Is she?" I asked. "By whom?" "She feels like there is a lot of chatter about the children," Elaine said. "She thinks you are stirring the pot." "I haven't stirred anything, Elaine," I said. "People are asking me where my children are. I am telling them. Would you prefer I lie?" "Well," Elaine lowered her voice, "you could be a little more gracious. You could just say it didn't work out. You don't have to mention the venue details." "I am being gracious," I said softly. "I am here. I am smiling. I am not making a scene. But I am not going to lie to protect Marin's insecurities anymore. I am being gracious. Elaine, I am just not being quiet." Elaine looked at me. She opened her mouth to recite the usual script, keep the peace, family first, but she stopped. She saw something in my eyes that told her the script had been burned. She walked away, defeated. A few minutes later, I felt a hand on my back. It was Ryan. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. "How is Nate?" "He looks like he's gonna throw up," Ryan said. "He and Marin are arguing in the hallway, quietly, but intense." "Good," I said. "He deserves to know who he is marrying." Just then, Marin came storming back into the room. She spotted me instantly. She didn't come over to chat. She marched. She cornered us near a large potted fern by the terrace doors. Her face was flushed, her eyes bright with unshed tears and rage. "Sarah," she hissed, "can I talk to you?" "We are talking," I said. "Why are you telling people I lied?" she demanded. Her voice was shaking. "Nate is furious with me. Doctor, Ward is looking at me like I am a criminal. You are ruining my night." "I am answering questions. Marin," I said calmly, "you told everyone a different story. They were bound to compare notes eventually." "I did what I had to do," she said, her voice rising. "You don't get it. Your kids, they just take over everything. They are so much. If they were here, they would be running around, breaking hearts, getting everyone to coo over them. They create problems just by being in the room." It was the same thing she had said in the voice note, but hearing it live, with the music playing and the guests watching, was different. It was visceral. "They create problems," Ryan repeated. Marin spun to face him. "Yes, Ryan. You know they do. They are spoiled, and they are attention hogs, and I didn't want them ruining my aesthetic." Ryan stepped forward. He put his body between Marin and me. He wasn't aggressive, but he was absolute. "Don't talk about our children like that," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the ambient noise like a knife. Marin froze. She had never heard Ryan speak to her like that. She waited for him to soften, to apologize, to make a joke. He didn't. He stared at her, his face stone cold. "You didn't want them here because you are jealous of a 5-year-old, Ryan said. "That is the truth, and we are done pretending it is anything else." Marin's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked around. People were watching. Leo had his camera pointed at the floor, but he was watching. Ward was watching. For the first time in her life, Marin realized she had lost the audience. She turned and fled toward the bridal suite. Ryan let out a long breath. He turned to me. His hands were shaking slightly. "I did it," he said. "You did. I said, taking his hand. I am so proud of you. The room was buzzing now. The pretense of the perfect evening was gone. The guests were no longer props in Marin's photo shoot. They were witnesses to a family collapse. But strangely, I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt light. The truth was out. The folder on my laptop wasn't just a shield anymore, it was a history book. And the chapter where Sarah Kelly took the blame was officially closed. The speeches began at 8 o'clock, signaled by the gentle chiming of a spoon against a crystal glass. The room settled into a hush, the kind of quiet that felt less like reverence and more like the collective holding of breath. We were seated at table 4, which I noticed was positioned strategically behind a large pillar. It was a subtle exile, a way to ensure that if the photographer took a wide shot of the room, Ryan and I would be obscured. Marin took the microphone first. She had recovered from her earlier retreat to the bridal suite, her makeup reapplied, her hair smoothed. She stood in the center of the room, bathed in the warm spotlight, clutching the mic with knuckles that were white under the stage lights. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice trembling with a practiced emotion. "It means the world to Nate and me to have our village here. Planning an event like this is, well, it is a journey. You learn a lot about people. You learn who shows up for you, and you learn who complicates things." She paused for a laugh that didn't come. The room was silent. "But honestly," she continued, flashing a bright, brittle smile toward our table, "we are just so grateful for everyone who respected our vision tonight, even when it was hard. I know some people struggle with boundaries." She let the word hang in the air, heavy and pointed. "But tonight is about love and elegance and just being present." A few of her bridesmaids let out a supportive woo, but it sounded thin. Most of the guests were looking down at their plates or exchanging glances. The subtext wasn't subtle anymore. It was neon. She was using her toast to scold me. Ryan stiffened beside me. I placed a hand on his knee, squeezing gently. "Don't react." I signaled, "Let her speak. Let everyone hear it." When the speeches concluded, the room broke into the murmuring chaos of dinner service. I stood up to get some air, needing a break from the claustrophobia of table 4. As I made my way toward the terrace doors, Dr. Patrice Ward intercepted me. "Sarah," she said. It wasn't a greeting. It was a summons. "Dr. Ward," I replied, stopping. She steered me toward a quieter alcove near the bar, away from the flow of waiters. She looked at me with an intensity that made me want to straighten my posture. "I need to ask you something directly," she said, "and I would appreciate a direct answer. No social niceties." "Okay," I said. "Did Marin specifically single out your children?" Dr. Ward asked. "I don't mean generally. I mean, did she give you a specific reason why they, out of all the children in this family, were excluded?" I looked at this woman. She was Marin's mentor. She held power over Marin's career. If I told her the truth, I was damaging Marin professionally. But Marin had just stood on a stage and called me a boundary crosser in front of 100 people. "Yes," I said. "She did." "What was the reason?" "She told me in a private message that they were too pretty," I said, keeping my voice steady. "She said they were distracting and that they would pull focus from her. She said she didn't want comparisons." "Doctor," Ward stared at me. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes seemed to darken. "She actually used the words, 'too pretty.'" "She did," I confirmed. "And she said their presence would invite comments that she didn't want to deal with." "And what did you tell the children?" "Doctor," Ward asked softly. "I told them it was a boring grown-up party," I said. "I didn't repeat her words to them. They think their aunt loves them. I intend to keep it that way." "Doctor." Ward let out a long, slow breath. She looked toward the head table, where Marin was laughing too loudly at something Nate had said. "I have been mentoring Marin for 3 years." "Doctor," Ward said, her voice low. "She is talented. She is driven. But we have had conversations about her. Image obsession. I have warned her that leadership requires substance, not just optics. I told her that you cannot curate people like you curate a feed. She turned back to me. To humiliate your own family, your nieces because of insecurity, that is not leadership. That is cowardice. I can't endorse that. I am sorry, I said, and I meant it. I know you have invested a lot in her. Don't be sorry. Doctor, Ward said sharply, be glad you protected your daughters. She walked away, not toward Marin, but toward the exit. She was leaving early. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of vindication and sadness. Marin was losing allies she didn't even know she needed. All because she couldn't handle sharing a spotlight with a kindergartner. I turned to head back to the table, but the drama was escalating. Near the entrance to the kitchen, Nate and Marin were in a heated discussion. They had tried to step into a side corridor, but the acoustics of the venue were treacherous. Their voices carried. I asked you a simple question. Marin, Nate's voice cracked. Did you tell the venue Sarah was a security risk? I didn't say security risk, Marin hissed. I just said she was difficult because she was. She kept asking questions. She asked if she could bring her kids to a family party. Nate shot back. That isn't being difficult. That is being a mom. Why did you lie to me about the insurance? Why did you lie to my mother about the seating chart? Because you wouldn't understand, Marin cried out. You don't understand the pressure. I just wanted it to be perfect. Perfect for who? Nate asked. For Instagram or for us? I looked away, not wanting to witness the intimacy of their collapse. A moment later, Marin emerged from the corridor. Her mascara was smudged under her left eye. Her chest was heaving. Elaine was there instantly, like a medic on a battlefield. It is okay, sweetie, Elaine cooed, ushering Marin toward the bathroom. It is just stress. Everyone is just misunderstood. People are tired. Come fix your face. Elaine shot a glare at me over Marin's shoulder. It was a look of pure accusation. Look what you did. I didn't flinch. I hadn't done anything but show up. As I stood there, Chloe, the venue coordinator, appeared at my elbow. She looked exhausted. Mrs. Kelly, she whispered. Yes, Chloe. I just wanted to apologize again, she said. I heard about the confusion with the internal note. I want you to know, I have flagged Marin's file. We don't like being used as the bad guy for personal disputes. I appreciate that, I said. Also, Chloe hesitated, checking to see if anyone was listening. You should know. Last week, Marin tried to add a clause to your specific RSVP. She wanted us to make you sign a waiver saying you would be financially responsible if your children caused any visual disruption to the event photography. My jaw dropped. A waiver. We refused. Obviously, Chloe said. It is not a legal document we would ever issue, but I thought you should know the extent of it. We have it all documented in our communication logs if you ever need it. Thank you, Chloe, I said, feeling a cold chill. That is good to know. A waiver. She wanted to fine me if my children were too cute in a photo. It was pathological. I walked back to the table, feeling like I was moving through a surrealist painting. The elegance of the room, the flowers, the candles. The music felt like a thin veneer over a rotting structure. At a nearby table, Lila's fiancé, a man named Ben, was talking to a group of guests. Ben was Nate's brother. He was a no-nonsense guy, a contractor who hated drama. I heard him say, loudly and clearly, "No, that is not what happened. Sarah didn't refuse childcare. Marin blocked it because she didn't want strollers in the lobby. She told Nate it was insurance, but she told the venue it was aesthetics. It is all bullshit." The group around him fell silent, then started whispering furiously. Are you serious? A woman asked. She banned them because of strollers. She banned them because she is nuts, Ben said, taking a swig of his beer. And now she is trying to pin it on Sarah. It is messed up. The correction was spreading. It was moving faster than the lie because it had the weight of truth. It was coming from inside the house. I sat down next to Ryan. He looked drained. Nate is in the parking lot, Ryan said. He is pacing. Marin is in the bathroom with your mom, I said. We should go, Ryan said. This is done. Not yet, I said. If we leave now, it looks like we are running away. We stay until the cake. We leave with dignity. Ryan nodded, pouring himself more water. You are tougher than me. Sarah. I have to be, I said. 10 minutes later, Marin reappeared. She had fixed her face, but the frantic energy was radiating off her in waves. She scanned the room, saw the clusters of whispering guests, saw Nate's empty chair. She made a beeline for me. She didn't sit. She stood over me while I remained seated, trying to use height to reestablish dominance. Sarah, she said, her voice tight. Can we talk now? We can talk here, I said calmly. Fine, she snapped. Look, I am sorry if you took things the wrong way. I am sorry if my wording was clumsy. I was just trying to manage a very complex event. It wasn't your wording, Marin, I said. It was your actions. Okay, whatever. She waved her hand dismissively. I apologized. Now I need you to do something for me. People are getting the wrong idea. They think I am some kind of monster. I need you to go over to table 6 and tell them that there really was a venue policy issue. Just smooth it over. Confirm it was a misunderstanding. She was asking me to lie. After everything, after the notes, the waivers, the insults she was demanding, I perjure myself to save her reputation. No, I said. Marin blinked. Excuse me? I won't do that, I said. I won't lie to protect you. Marin, you told the lie. You can fix it. You have to, she hissed. We are family. You are supposed to have my back. I am supposed to protect my children, I said, and you made it very clear that they are not welcome in your version of this family. So no, I won't lie for you. Elaine will hear about this, Marin threatened, her eyes narrowing. Elaine is watching us right now, I said, glancing over at my mother-in-law, who was hovering anxiously by the cake table. She can hear whatever she wants. Marin stared at me with pure hatred. Then she turned and stomped away. Elaine descended on me seconds later. Sarah, she whispered, her voice trembling. What did you say to her? She is falling apart. She asked me to lie to the guests, I said. I refused. You are splitting the family, Elaine said, tears welling in her eyes. This was supposed to be a happy night. Why couldn't you just go along with it? Why did you have to be so rigid? I didn't split anything. Elaine, I said, my voice heavy with the grief of it all. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. Marin split the family when she decided my children weren't good enough to be seen. I just turned on the lights. Elaine looked at me, then at Ryan. She waited for Ryan to step in, to fix it, to apologize for me. Ryan looked at his mother. He looked at her tears, and for the first time, he didn't move to wipe them away. Sarah is right, Mom, Ryan said. It is enough, Elaine gasped. Pressing a hand to her mouth, she backed away as if he had slapped her. Ryan stood up. Let's go. We walked out. We didn't say goodbye to Marin. We didn't say goodbye to Elaine. We walked past the whispering tables, past Doctor, Ward's empty chair, past the confused waiters. Outside, the air was cold and clean. The ocean roared in the distance. We got into the car. Ryan didn't start the engine immediately. He gripped the steering wheel, his head bowed. I feel like I just lost them, he whispered. My mom, my sister, even Nate. I don't know if he will ever look at me the same way. You didn't lose them, Ryan, I said gently. You just changed the terms of the contract. You told them that the price of admission to your life is respect, and if they can't pay it, that is on them. It hurts, he admitted, his voice cracking. I know, I said. Growth always does. He looked at me. I was terrified tonight. When Marin came over, I wanted to hide, but then I looked at you, and I thought about the girls, and I realized if I don't stop this now, Marin is going to do this to them their whole lives. She is going to make them feel small so she can feel big. Exactly, I said. I am going to talk to Nate tomorrow, Ryan said, starting the car. I am going to tell him everything, the full truth, and I'm going to tell Mom that we are taking a break from family dinners for a while. Until Marin apologizes. A real apology. Not that I'm sorry you felt that way, garbage. That sounds like a plan, I said. We pulled out of the driveway. As we turned onto the main road, I looked back at the venue. It was glowing on the cliffside, a beacon of light in the darkness, inside. Marin was probably trying to salvage the night. She was probably grabbing the microphone again, trying to spin a new story, trying to pull the attention back to herself. But the audience had left the theater. Guests were still there physically, eating the cake and drinking the wine, but their belief was gone. They had seen the cracks. They had seen the cruelty behind the curtain. Marin had gotten what she wanted, an adults-only evening where she was the center of attention, but she hadn't realized that the attention would be an autopsy of her character. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes. We were going home, to the girls, to the real world. The war wasn't over. People like Marin never truly surrender, but the Battle of Alder and Ash House was won. And for the first time, the victory didn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belonged to the one who had kept the receipts. We were 5 steps away from the heavy oak doors that led to the parking lot, 5 steps away from the cool, salt-damp air of the coast and the silence of the car. My hand was on the brass handle. Ryan was right beside me, his shoulders hunched as if he expected a physical blow. We almost made it. But Marin could not let us go. To let us leave quietly was to admit that she had no power over us. She needed to have the last word. She needed to frame our exit not as a dignified withdrawal, but as a tantrum. The screech of a microphone feedback cut through the room like a physical scream. It was sharp and violent, causing half the guests to cover their ears. I froze. Ryan's hand tightened on my arm. "Excuse me," Marin's voice boomed through the speakers. It was too loud, distorted by her proximity to the mic. "Everyone, if I could just have your attention for one more second." We turned around. We had to walk out now, while she was speaking to us, would look like the scene she wanted us to make. Marin stood on the small stage area near the band. She looked frantic. Her hair, which had been perfectly coiffed an hour ago, was now slightly disheveled. She was gripping the microphone stand with both hands, leaning into it as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "I just wanted to say a special thank you," she said, her eyes locking onto me from across the room. She was smiling, but it was a rictus of rage. "To my brother Ryan and his wife Sarah, they are leaving us early tonight." The room went deadly silent. The clinking of silverware stopped. The waiters froze in place. "It is a shame," Marin continued, her voice trembling with a toxic mix of tearfulness and venom. "But honestly, I get it. Some people just struggle when the spotlight isn't on them. I know it is hard for some people to handle a night that isn't about their kids or their drama. It is sad that jealousy has to ruin a family celebration. But Nate and I are rising above it." She threw her hand up in a gesture of triumph, expecting applause. She expected the room to rally around the bride, to hiss at the rude guests leaving early. Nobody clapped. The silence that followed was heavy and suffocating. It was the sound of 100 people simultaneously realizing that they were witnessing a breakdown, not a toast. I stood by the door, feeling a strange calmness settle over me. She had just accused me of jealousy. She had just accused me of the very thing that was eating her alive. Then, a voice broke the silence. It didn't come from me. It came from table 9, near the back. "Then why did you tell different people different rules about children?" It was a man's voice, clear, curious, not shouting, just asking. It was Ryan's cousin, Mike. He was holding his wine glass, looking at Marin with genuine confusion. Marin froze. The microphone picked up her sharp intake of breath. "Excuse me," she stammered. "You just said Sarah is leaving because she is jealous," Mike said, standing up. But you told me Sarah couldn't bring her kids because the venue banned anyone under 21. Then I talked to my sister. And you told her it was because of the catering budget, and I just heard Ben say you told Nate it was insurance. Mike looked around the room, then back at the stage. So if Sarah is the one with the problem, Mike asked, why is your story the one that keeps changing? It was the thread that unraveled the sweater. Marin opened her mouth to speak, to spin it, to say Mike was drunk, but another voice chimed in. She told me it was a safety issue with the cliffs, a woman said from a table near the window. She told me Sarah refused to hire a sitter, someone else muttered, loud enough to be heard. The room dissolved into a low rumble of realization. It wasn't a murmur of gossip anymore. It was the sound of a collective fact check. People were turning to each other, comparing the lies they had been fed, realizing that the strict policy was nothing more than a kaleidoscope of Marin's insecurities. Marin looked terrified. She looked left and right, searching for an ally, for someone to jump up and defend her. Her eyes landed on Elaine, but Elaine was sitting with her face buried in her hands. Then, movement near the bar caught my eye. Doctor. Patrice Ward stood up. She had been putting on her coat to leave, but she had stopped. She walked slowly toward the center of the room, not onto the stage, but into the open space between the tables. She commanded attention simply by existing. Marin, Doctor, Ward said. Her voice was professional, the voice of a woman who had boardroom tables fall silent when she spoke. She didn't need a microphone. Marin looked down at her mentor, her eyes widening. Patrice, please, these people are ruining my... Stop, Doctor, Ward said. It was a single command, sharp as a whip crack. I have spent 30 years in business. Doctor, Ward said, addressing the room as much as Marin. I have seen a lot of strategies for reputation management, but I will not stand here and watch a character attack disguised as etiquette. She turned to look at Marin. You asked me earlier why I was leaving. Doctor, Ward said, I am leaving because I cannot support a host who uses a microphone to humiliate her family. You told me Sarah was resistant to rules, but it seems the only thing she was resistant to was your need to erase her children. Doctor, Ward didn't name me as a hero. She didn't have to. She just identified the villain. Leadership is about accountability, Marin. Doctor, Ward finished. Not projection. She turned and walked out the door. Passing me with a brief, grim nod, Marin stood on the stage, stripped bare. The narrative she had carefully constructed, the elegant bride, the difficult sister-in-law, the chaotic nieces lay in tatters around her feet. Then, the final blow fell. Nate stood up. He had been sitting at the head table, staring at the tablecloth. He looked like a man waking up from a long, confusing dream. He stood up slowly, pushing his chair back. The screech of the chair legs against the floor was the only sound in the room. He didn't go to the microphone. He looked at Marin. Then he looked at us standing by the door. I didn't know, Nate said. His voice was thick, choked with emotion. Ryan, Sarah, I didn't know. He walked toward us. He didn't run, but he moved with purpose. He stopped 10 feet away from where we stood. He looked at his brother. She told me it was logistics, Nate said, his voice breaking. She swore to me it was just about space. If I had known she said your kids were... If I had known she said they were too pretty. He couldn't even finish the sentence. The absurdity of the insult, the cruelty of it, seemed to stick in his throat. I am sorry, Nate said to me. I am so sorry, Sarah. You shouldn't have been put in this position. Nate, Marin shrieked from the stage. What are you doing? Don't apologize to her. She is the one who ruined it. She is the one weaponizing the guests against me. Nate turned slowly to look at his fiancée. He looked at her not with anger, but with a profound, terrifying confusion. It was the look of a man realizing he was engaged to a stranger. She didn't weaponize anyone, Marin, Nate said quietly. She didn't say a word. You did. You grabbed the mic. Marin let out a sound of frustration, a guttural cry of a child who has been denied their way. She pointed a shaking finger at me across the room. You did this, she screamed. You planned this. You brought all these receipts, and you whispered to everyone, and you turned them against me. You used your kids as a weapon. I let go of the door handle. I stepped forward. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The acoustics of the room carried my words to every corner. I didn't bring weapons, Marin, I said. I brought facts. I took a breath. And I left my children out of it, I added, my voice trembling slightly with the force of the truth. Unlike you, you are the only one who dragged them into this room tonight. Marin stared at me. Her mouth worked, but no words came out. There was no spin left. There was no filter to apply. The event dissolved. It didn't end with a bang, but with a shuffle. People stopped looking at Marin. They started checking their phones. They started finding their coats. They started signaling the valet. The spell of the perfect evening was broken, replaced by the awkward, itch-inducing reality of a public shaming. Elaine finally stood up and hurried toward the stage, waving her hands at the band to play music, to do something. It is a private matter, Elaine hissed at the guests near the front. Everyone, please, let's just cut the cake. It is just a misunderstanding. But nobody moved toward the cake. Nate looked at Marin one last time. He didn't go to her. He turned and walked out the side door, toward the gardens. He needed air. He needed to think about whether he could marry a woman who viewed his nieces as competition. Ryan put his arm around me. Let's go, he said. This time, we opened the doors. We walked out into the night. The valet brought our car around. We got in. Ryan started the engine, but he didn't put it in drive. He just sat there, gripping the wheel, his breathing ragged. I looked at him. In the dashboard lights, he looked older. The illusion of his family, the idea that if he just kept quiet and kept the peace, everything would be fine, was gone. Are you okay? I asked softly. No, he said. I feel sick. I know. I watched her do it, Ryan said, staring through the windshield at the dark ocean. I watched her destroy herself because she couldn't handle you having dignity. It was pathetic. Sarah, it wasn't scary. It was just pathetic. She is a sad person. Ryan, I said. She thinks love is a finite resource. She thinks if the girls get some, there is less for her. Ryan nodded. He reached over and took my hand. His palm was warm. I am sorry it took me so long, he said. I am sorry I asked you to let it go. You were right. You were right about everything. We got there, I said. That is what matters. He put the car in gear. We drove away from Alder and Ash House. We left the lights, the music, and the wreckage behind us. The drive home was quiet, but it was a different kind of silence than the drive up. It wasn't tense. It was the silence of decompression. When we pulled into our driveway, the house was dark except for the living room lamp we had left on for the sitter. We went inside. The house smelled of popcorn and peace. Elena, the new sitter, looked up from her book on the sofa. She smiled. Hi, she whispered. They just went down about an hour ago. We had a great time. We built a fort and watched a movie about penguins. Thank you, Elena, I said, feeling a rush of gratitude so strong it almost knocked me over. Thank you so much, we paid her. We walked her to her car. Then, Ryan and I went upstairs. We pushed open the door to the girls' room. The nightlight cast a soft, golden glow over the room. Lily was asleep on her back, one arm thrown over her head, her breathing deep and even. Mia was curled in a ball, clutching her stuffed rabbit. They looked beautiful. They were not too pretty. They were not distracting. They were children. They were pure potential. I stood there, watching them sleep, and I felt the last of the anger drain out of me. Marin had wanted to erase them. She had wanted to edit them out of the narrative because they shone too brightly. But all she had done was highlight exactly what she lacked. She had spent the night fighting for control, for image, for the perfect shot, and she had ended up alone on a stage, screaming into a microphone that nobody wanted to listen to. I looked at Ryan. He was leaning against the door frame, watching his daughters with tears in his eyes. "They are safe," he whispered. "They are," I said. My real victory wasn't the scene in the ballroom. It wasn't Dr. Ward walking out, or Nate apologizing, or the guests murmuring in agreement. My victory was right here. My children were asleep, dreaming of penguins and forts. They didn't know their aunt had called them a problem. They didn't know their mother had to go to war to protect their right to exist. They felt loved. They felt wanted. They felt enough. I had built a wall around their joy, and Marin hadn't been able to breach it. I walked over and pulled the blanket up over Mia's shoulder. I kissed her forehead. "Sweet dreams," I whispered. I turned off the nightlight. We walked out of the room and closed the door, leaving the silence intact. I had the receipts, I had the truth, but more importantly, I had my family, and that was the only story that mattered. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed the unraveling of Marin's carefully curated world. It is always satisfying when the truth comes out, isn't it? I would love to hear from you. Where are you listening from today? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories for more dramas about family, justice, and the boundaries we set to protect the ones we love. What did you think of Sarah's strategy? Do you think Nate will go through with the wedding? Share your thoughts in English in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next story.